Join us at Paranormal M, where every story takes you deeper into the unknown. Subscribe now and stay tuned for spine-tingling adventures. The next mystery is just around the corner. Passed out in haunted jail. Last night I went on a tour of the old Charleston jail. It's in Charleston, South Carolina. This jail is considered to be the most haunted in the state. It's operated from 1802 to 1939. I was completely fine leading up. I was pretty excited, actually. When we walked in, I felt uneasy, but nothing insane. The minute we walked up the steps, I started feeling the heaviest weight on my chest. I think I felt sad, or I could just feel the presence so deeply. I'm an extremely empathetic and emotional person. I quickly started to feel nauseous and dizzy. And I do pass out frequently, but it always has to do with the sight of blood or, me being in pain. I don't just pass out randomly for no reason, in other words. Within 5 minutes of the tour, I was walking out the door on the verge of passing out. Since I know this feeling all too well, I knew I only had seconds before it would drop. But that's not what happened. My body went numb. My hearing went to ringing and tunnel vision, all the normal stuff. Yet, I never passed out. I just kinda stayed this way for at least 3 minutes. It was actually starting to make me mad because either pass out or don't. The second I laid down, I was immediately fine. I hopped up and went back into the tour. Within seconds of walking into the room, my throat started burning. The guide hadn't even told the story yet. Lavinia Fisher, serial killer, sentenced to death by hanging. She ended up throwing herself off a platform as to not allow the city control over her own death. These may seem simple to many, but I've never been anywhere haunted before. What really got me was the semi-fainting. Never experienced that one, especially since it was completely random seeming. Then the throat burning immediately after coming back. Her story was insane, and I had no prior knowledge. Any thoughts? And is this a normal experience? Has anyone else ever been to Old Charleston Jail before? I bet somebody listening has. And whomever that might be, what do you think? Disembodied flute sounds that play outside a farmhouse. Hi, I live in the rural side of Portugal with my wife. We have a family farm that has houses next to it. There's almost no noise except some cattle a few streets up. We have some activity and mostly used to it. My wife has seen a shadow figure as she went to go out with the dog a few months ago. It left her frozen for a moment and she ran inside. We have heard disembodied voices inside the home and outside, during the day and night. Some mimic activity as well. During the years I've grown up here, so I have a good idea of the activity. We've captured audios, photos, and videos. All these things that happen around the home, from mist-like movements at night to tapping on microphones and opening doors. I've seen this small girl out in the hallway. Never felt bad energy coming from any entity inside the home. Also, to say that we have Nordic runes protecting the home and ourselves. Things move around sometime. Knock on doors are common too. This all to emphasize, we're used to this. But a few nights ago, something new happened that made us a little bit apprehensive and very confused. It was 3:03 a.m. We're working on our living room. We're in our peaceful silence when a flute played outside of our window. in a very quick and loud melody. It lasted about 3 seconds. We followed the same rules as people in the Appalachian do. That's because we live very close to the woods and the Arabita Mountain. We don't hear anything or see anything or feel anything or speak anything. We were just kind of spooked about it the morning after. Has anybody else experienced this? Have you ever dark shadows in the corner of your eye? Since I was a child, I really was interested about paranormal, but I didn't really believe anything. But since a few years, my mindset changed from "this doesn't exist" to "I don't know if this exists, but I think it does." In my life, I had not really a special paranormal experience. My family just is your typical German one. When you don't see it, it doesn't exist, and when you see it, all things have a natural sort of explanation. So, I'm the only one who thinks about this, and since I think that it is possible that there are ghosts, and maybe so much else outside, I hope I have a real experience. For about a few months I saw dark shadows in the corner of the eye, like when something is going by, but every time I look at it, nothing's there. It's very inconspicuous and not extremely noticeable. It happens not often, maybe about every 2 weeks, or maybe 1 week. Not regularly. I just don't really think about it. I talked with a coworker, and randomly this topic came off. During the conversation, he says that shadows in the corner of the eye can be signs of ghosts, and I don't even tell him this. That's because I don't really think about it, really. I also have the theory that paranormal experiences have mostly only this type of human who believes in it or is open for it. What are you thinking about? Tell me, please. I'm thinking about food. Spooky food, maybe. But I'm a skeptic, and I've had a few paranormal experiences at work that I can't explain. As the title says, I'm a massive skeptic, and I've had a few paranormal experiences whilst at work, and I'm not really sure what to think of it. I'm posting here in hopes somebody finds some enjoyment out of my story. For context, I work in warehousing and maintenance. It's in a popular chain store in the UK. The building itself is a few hundred years old. It's built on the site of an old Roman jousting ground, from what I can tell from the old city plans. And it backs onto a church and an old priory. There's also a cathedral nearby. I've had a few experiences in this building in the year and a half I've been working here. The first one is sometimes when I'm in the fridge downstairs, I'll see a black-cloaked figure walking past the door right to left. Whenever I poke my head out there, no one's there. And funnily enough, the figure walks straight toward the priory. My ex-colleague actually corroborated this experience without me mentioning anything to him. That was when we were discussing ghosts one time. I've been stood in the delivery bay alone before, and one of the roller doors that lead to where the trucks park their trailers started to open. This door has a safety feature which locks it shut unless the button to open it is being held down, and, well, started walking toward it to check it out and immediately stopped. And finally, this is the experience that has me kind of shaken a bit. I was stood down in the delivery bay alone. I was doing some cleaning. That's when I heard repeated loud banging. I look up and there's a stack of large plastic trays, loaded with stock, so they were heavy. About 20 meters from me, they were violently shaking back and forth. The second I look at them, they stop. There had been nobody in there with me for a solid 15 minutes, and there was also other stacks of trays around it that were totally unaffected. I honestly cannot think of any explanation as to why this happened. And trust me, I've tried. I think I encountered something the day my dad passed away in the hospital. My dad was in the ICU for heart failure. At the end, the machines were the only thing that kept his heart moving. So essentially, we were just waiting for the doctor to call it. The hospital's morgue is in the basement, and has undertakers waiting should people need their services. When it was time, the undertakers took my dad and went with them to sort out paperwork. When we entered the morgue, we were led to an office space. I was very upset that there was an overwhelming smell of smoke, the kind that fills your nostrils and doesn't go away. I thought that it was very unprofessional to smoke in an enclosed space in a hospital to boot. But my mother and brother were unfazed, so I bit my tongue. On our way home, I complained about the smell to them. They were very confused about what I was even talking about. And Mom has a very, very sensitive nose. Absolutely hated the smell of smoke, particularly the smell of cigarettes. Dad would sneakily smoke before coming home, and Mom could smell him the minute he came in the door. There was no way she hadn't smelt the smoke in that room. 2, my brother has asthma. That kind of smoke would send him reeling. They both hadn't smelled anything in that room. And in hindsight, smoke that strong would have clung to clothes and hair. We were in the room for over an hour. We should have reeked. We had to go back to the office for a few more times, and there was no smell of smoke on the premises nor on the people working there. Maybe it was my dad having a smoke now. There was no one stopping him. I'll join him. Nightmares about a black figure and its mimic, my friend voice. Nightmares about a black figure. Hi, I'm a female around 18 to 20 years old, and I keep having nightmares for I think 5 years already. But this time it's felt so real, and it actually makes me feel like I'm gonna die if I haven't woken up. I'm gonna call myself Christine. The last few days, I dreamed about a black figure of a young child who's beside me in my bed. It's talking to me, and I realize that I'm dreaming because there's no way there's a child in our room together with my friends. My bed is on the top, and it's a double bed. So how come there's a child beside me and I can't move? I just saw the black figure of a child, and I can't understand what it's saying to me. Then after a few days, earlier this morning around 4:45 a.m., I woke up for a very bad but vivid dream. In this dreams, I dreamed in my dream that I woke up. The first dream's about my daily lives, and I think it's a celebration or a holiday, because in this dream, I know the people on my dreams, they're my friends, classmates, neighbors, and relatives. And I'm in a vehicle, and then I think I'm going somewhere, but I don't even know where. So I decided to go out of the vehicle, and then decided to walk back where I came from first. But then suddenly I have this feeling that's telling me to look back to where the vehicle is supposed to go. I looked back, and then I saw a woman or a girl with a very long black hair that covers her face. She's wearing a brown or slightly red dress. Then it started running toward me, so I started running too. I woke up because I heard my friend calling me. When I open my eyes, I'm in my room just lying in bed, and then I still can't move. Then I saw someone that's calling me, and it's not my friend. This time, it's not a child, it's a black figure of a girl. I think the same age as me, and this is the second dream. Like talking to me. But this time she had the voice of my other friend. Not the friend I'm sleeping with in our room, but the friend who's in the other room and hasn't come back yet. So that friend's in another place. I'm gonna call her Zia. She keeps calling me. Like in my dreams, the door's open and she's just calling me like, "Christine, talk to me. Christine, listen to me." Oh, okay, if you don't want to talk to me. "Hey, Christine, wake up." Sort of like that. But I know it's not Zia, it's someone else, and that's when I know I'm still dreaming. I just decided to keep my eyes closed and start praying. I'm Catholic. But every time I pray, it's interrupted me and keeps calling me. Then I felt that she's beside me laying in my bed. Then still talking to me, and I decided to open my eyes. I can move now, and it's my dream, and I push her so that way she'll fall. After she fell, she started moving weird and kind of ran away like a dog. She runs away with all her hands and feet on the floor, like so fast, just like in the blink of an eye. Then I go down, decide to wake my other friend in the other bed. But then the black figure came back, started crawling up, and I pick up a pillow and smack it to her head, and I woke up from my dreams. I still don't know what just happened. When I woke up, I'm sweating so much and I'm out of breath. Then I open my phone, because it's just beside me, and I text my parents to tell them I just had nightmares. I pray before going back to sleep again. But I can't sleep. But it's already 6 a.m. I decided to take a nap because my other friend's already awake, and got to nap maybe for an hour before I decided to take a bath and resume my day. I'm still in shock, and I know if I haven't woken up, I'll die. I know that for sure. And this is a true story, not a made-up one. I just want to know who is that black figure, and why does it have the voice of my friend who's not in the same place as I am? Once again, I'm going to call myself Christine. Do as you wish. Today around 3:21 a.m., I woke up from a very bad dreams. In this dream, I'm also dreaming while in my dream. In our room, it's a shared room. My two friends who share the same room as me, I'm going to call them Joyce and Ella. In our room, there's a 2 double bed which me and Ella occupy. It's the bed near the window, while Joyce and the other person, who never actually sleeps in our room, occupy the one near the door. In this dream, I first dream about waking up from a very bad dream. Ella is the one who sleeps in the lower bed while I sleep in the upper bed. She's waking me up because in this dream, I'm dreaming something I don't even really recall now. And Joyce also awake in my dreams, and they pull me to get out of our room, and I woke up after that. This time I didn't know I'm dreaming because it felt so real. And I just keep thinking that the only dream I have is when Joyce and Ella pull me out to her room. I'm just lying and praying because I just don't know what's happening. That's when suddenly I just felt that something is wrong and I can't see the rosary I put in my right hand. Which I know for sure, and I'll never get that wrong when I put a rosary in my right hand and it's not there. That's when I know that I'm still dreaming. But I can't wake up. I even tried multiple times and I still can't wake up. Then I start panicking. That's because I'm still in a dream and I can't woke up, and in this dream I can see myself in bed. But my eyes is closed, which is so weird, until I decided to cover myself with a blanket because it's only on my side, and then when I did it, I heard a voice saying, "Are you not going to move and give me some space?" That's when I know that there is somebody beside me in my dreams, but I can't see who it is. I recognize the voice, and when I know whose voice it belongs, it's my own voice. So I shout so loud in my dreams, even I know no sound's coming out. I'm sweating so much and out of breath just like yesterday. And then I woke up for real. I pick up my phone, who's beside my charger in my bed. When I opened my phone, I saw the time is exactly 3:21 a.m. That's when I decided to call my father and tell him what happened, and he reassured me that he will not end the call, and that I should sleep some more, and he'll keep watching me sleep. This time there's no black figure, but a voice that have the same voice of mine. And it's still the same pattern where in my dreams I'm dreaming and still can't wake up even though I know I'm dreaming. I really don't know what's happening to me right now. I don't feel stressed or nervous or anything except peace. Even I have an exam coming up tomorrow. Today I look in the mirror. I saw my face so tired, my eyes, it's like giving up. But I don't feel sleepy because I'm afraid that if I sleep it'll happen again. Why does it keep happening? It's been so long, but it's getting worse and worse. I don't know what to do. I pray every day and every time, like before I sleep and after I wake up and before I leave the house. I always pray. So why I still have nightmares where I feel like dying? I don't know what to do. So earlier this morning, at around 3:21 a.m., I had another bad dream. I decided to go home and spend the night with my family for a few days. They asked me what happened, and I told them everything that I'd been dreaming about. I'm from a country called Philippines, where we believe in another entity or elements that live with us. And around 2 p.m., my mother told me to come with her, and she said that she will ask someone to help me, to know what's actually happening to me. In our country, we have this people who called a traditional healer that is specialized to something unknown that we should not mess with, like Kack-Pro, a giant who smoke, a duende, an entity called dwarf, or encanto, and enchanted and mysterious entity, rather. And this kind of healer is called a Mangtatawas. And I agree, because I want to know what's really happening to me. Disclaimer. There's a lot of healers who use a different method of this kind of situation. Then the healer started putting some oil on my forehead, and the healer put a small piece of paper that fits to my forehead and chant some Latin or oration, I think. And the healer said, "There is really something inside me." When she pulled the paper away from my forehead, I saw some black figure of two entities. I already know who is this black figure in the paper. It's inside a house, and the black figure is a woman and a child. It's looked like a shadow. I never told the healer about what I saw. The healer said that the entity liked me. It was because I'm quite chubby, and my face is really like have a chubby cheeks and so round, and that's why it likes me. The healer said something I always do, which is sleeping on my back. So the healer said I should not sleep on my back, and instead I should sleep on my sides. And then I should always have a rosary on me, and I should drink some water and pray before sleep. And after that, the healer put its hand on my head and started chanting some words, and I think it's Latin, for 3 times. And the healer said that I should do everything the healer said. So let's see what happened to me now, because I'm not coming back to that shared house this week because I don't feel safe. I'll just come back next week. So I know what it is now, and I'm not that scared, but kind of still scared, but not too much. Oh, also, the healer took my hand, and the healer said that, it's still connected, so it's fine. So I'm quite confused, what is it about? And when me and my mother came home, I asked her why did the healer look into my hand. She said that if the lines in my hand is not connected, then the entity is trying to replace me with something and take me somewhere. So I felt relief that I'm still me, but scared at the same time while just thinking about being replaced and being taken away. Seems understandable. House keeps changing. I'm not sure if this is paranormal or some sort of time slip or it may be something completely different. But I don't know where else to write this. So there is a house on the next street from mine. It's just up the road, about a 5-minute walk away. And there's something wrong with it. It used to be a sort of regular house with a big dog that always sits on the windowsill and barks, and it has a big front window. And you can see in. It is really messy in there. Kind of like a hoarder house. And it is the living and ding room that is in the front. About 2 weeks ago, me and my friend who also lives in the area were walking down that street to my house. We saw that it had completely changed, and the dog wasn't there, which is the reason we noticed because it always barks really loudly at anyone who walks past. So we were pretty much expecting it. We also noticed that it had changed to a kitchen in the front window, and it was a lot bigger inside, like drastically bigger. But it was really fancy, like a nice kitchen, and that was when we noticed. There was maybe 2 or 3 days before when I'd walked down and it was a normal mess with the dog still there. Other than thinking they had all that work down in such a short amount of time, we tried not to think too much of it. Today, my bus had been diverted, so I had to get off on a different street and walk down this street. I usually get on one of the other sides, so I don't see this house every day. But I did today, and it had changed again. It had an entire forest, like a jungle of tropical trees, like what you would see in the Amazon rainforest, and it was all growing inside it. It looked like the living room and kitchen, or whatever room it is, went back for miles. I had to take a second look at it when I saw it. The dog was there, though, but it didn't bark. It just stared at me with a concerned look on its face like it was scared. I just carried on walking and went home. Paranormal phenomena are real, no matter what you think. The paranormal phenomenon is an undeniable reality, although most people prefer to ignore it in favor of superficial distractions, such as the fleeting gossip of social media. What drives this attitude? You got me. In many cases, it stems from an unconscious fear of confronting something that transcends human understanding. In others, it's maybe a simple reflection of the lack of interest in deeper issues, as if existence were reduced to a mechanical cycle of trivial stimuli. As a result, many become mere spectators of their own lives, wandering without reflection like automatons just devoid of philosophical inquiry. The truth is that humanity and science have long acknowledged the presence of phenomena that challenge conventional logic. However, this perception should not be limited to simplistic ideas of ghosts or spirits, as the concept of paranormal can encompass much more complex and subtle manifestations, such as the song of my washer machine, or my borrowed washer machine. Countless reports throughout history, often witnessed by multiple people simultaneously, suggest that there is something beyond what we can explain with current scientific models. What exactly constitutes these phenomena? Well, we don't know yet. But if one thing is certain, it's that they exist beyond our current scope of understanding. Perhaps all of these events are distinct manifestations of a single underlying force, something that expresses itself in various fragmented ways before our eyes. Or perhaps they're echoes of a parallel reality, a dimension that occasionally interacts with ours, leaving fleeting traces of its presence, perhaps. Whatever the origin of these mysteries, refusing to explore them will not make them any less real. On the contrary, denial only perpetuates ignorance. The true evolution of knowledge requires the courage to question and the willingness to see beyond what is familiar to us. After all, if there is something beyond the veil of our perception, wouldn't that be the key to a deeper understanding of existence? Please help us understand what we saw. So around 11:30 tonight, my boyfriend and I were leaving his house. We pet his dogs as usual, and we said bye. And this is important just to note that all of his dogs were accounted for. Mac was inside, we said goodbye to Baby, Sandy a little bit, and we saw all of them. So my boyfriend lives on a private road. So basically everybody knows everyone. His parents have been there for about 10 years. No new people have come. Just thought it was important to add, considering I'm not really sure what we, saw. So if there's a new animal around, it's noticed pretty quickly, as people talk, and literally the moment a stray comes up, they talk about it. And as we're pulling out, we saw eyes glowing about 50 feet away. My boyfriend thought it was a bunny or some sort of an animal or something like that. By the way, not to mention all the dogs were looking in that direction, so general curiosity. So we pulled around so his headlights would shine on it. This thing didn't look normal. It was too big to be a cat, too small to be a deer, too small to be a pig, but with that being said, if it were any of those things, it would have run away from the light, like most animals, don't really do. Or animals you don't own do, rather. So at first, it went into the wooded area, but then it turned around. It started inching toward us slowly, but would sit down after every step it took. Its shoulders didn't look to be in the right place to me. It looked like it was walking in its back legs. My boyfriend says he saw it walk on all fours, so I'm not really sure if it was one or the other or both. And this happened about 4 times before we drove off due to fear. The way it moved wasn't natural. It had glowing yellow eyes, black slick coat. And the coat was almost shiny, and it almost looked like it was contorted or walking strange. It almost resembled a dog, but it definitely wasn't. I'm not sure I can really explain what we saw. Anyways, fast forward. Probably a detail I should have put at the beginning, but the whole reason we went to his house was because he's just spending the night at mine and forgot clothes. So when we left my house, I left the gate open. The important thing to note here is that I'd lived with my grandparents who were disabled. And this is important because my driveway is about 150 yards long, if not longer. And at the time we left, and left the gate open, my grandparents would be asleep and wouldn't have shut the gate. I know this because I've done this before. I usually try to make sure the gate's shut before they wake up in the morning. But yeah, gate was shut and my boyfriend and I were already quite shaken from what we saw, so we literally turned around and I'm now writing this in a parking lot. If you have any ideas, please let me know. We just want to know if it's something we need to look out for, or if it can be chopped up to something else. Chopped up? Also, feel free to ask questions if you feel like there's more information needed. I felt I was touched on my face multiple times the night and my name being called out. This instance just happened last night. I was laying in bed drifting off to sleep after a really rough day at work. Very distinctly, I felt 2 fingers touch my chin and lift up. Kinda shot me awake. When my eyes opened, I just felt like I wasn't alone. But it was not a dark feeling, it was light but took me by surprise. And then, about 30 minutes later, it felt like somebody was brushing the ends of their fingertips across my eyebrows. And by the way, this is not the only time I've felt something different in the room I sleep in. A couple of weeks ago, I was half asleep. Well, half awake, half asleep. I remember just not getting good rest that night. I looked at the clock, and it was around 2, maybe 3 a.m. from what I could make out in my haziness. I very distinctly heard my name called out from the hall. It sounded like a soft-spoken man or woman, I couldn't even tell. But it was very clear, enough for me to get up and check to see if my partner called out for me. He was dead asleep on the couch. I even walked up to him to check because I definitely heard my name. There was no way it was him, and it's just us two in the house. Now my question is, are these all just weird sleep-deprived coincidences, or do I have a guardian angel that's trying to tell me something? Or is it more ominous than that? There's been a lot going on in my family and in my personal life. My siblings and I have had a strong connection to our grandfather that passed. My brother even seeing apparitions of him. 50% awake and 50% hungry. I need help working out if I'm losing my mind or not. Let's see what I can do. 1 week before Christmas, myself, fiancé, and her baby daughter, we moved into my fiancé's Nana's old flat as the landlord, who's a family friend, wanted to help us out after a period of homelessness and living in hotels. At first, everything was normal, and I must admit I'm 100% not a believer in ghosts. Or, at least wasn't. I'm now beginning to doubt myself for a few reasons. The first was NYE. We watched the fireworks on TV and my fiancé went to bed. Admittedly, I'd been drinking at this point, and I put it down to this initially. However, as I was playing video games, I turned to see her Nana in the hallway just staring at me. I blinked and she was gone. Due to alcohol and lack of sleep, I forgot about it. I mentioned it to my fiancée, but she said it didn't happen and I was likely just drunk and tired as I did. However, since I've noticed a few things happening at night, and even sometimes during the day, our daughter's toys being used when no one is near them, playing songs as if buttons have been pressed, hearing and seeing doors open and close, usually slowly, objects being moved in other rooms, such as objects I know that were in the sink previously ending up on the floor moments later, meaning that they'd jumped out of the sink themselves. However, for me, the real question came a week or so ago. I woke up around 3 a.m. because I heard a knock on her bedroom window. Now, this isn't particularly rare and occasionally happens. We're a ground floor flat with a communal path right outside her flat. Sometimes neighborhood kids or even drunken adults will do it to be annoying, and it does happen. However, I set up to go check and see a woman. It's of her Nana's build again, and a slim man. My partner states possibly her great-grandfather who also lived there. They were bending over and looking into my daughter's cot, smiling. I asked who they were and turned to grab something to use as a weapon, which ended up being a slipper, so not much use. Depends whose hand the slipper is in. When I turned back, they were gone. I obviously searched the house to no avail. But I'm hoping I can maybe, or what they say is I'm hoping I can her some help. No, hoping I can get her some help on this one. That's because I'm seriously unnerving me. And I'm worried for my daughter as well. The slipper is a fine weapon. I dreamed of a loved one's death. My mother had a good friend suffering from cancer then. The lady was already wary, and she was in the last days of her life. I was asleep when I dreamed of her lying on a bed, her deathbed, in her home. Her mother was sitting in a chair beside her in bed, and her father was standing near the door. Her mother talked in a hushed voice to her, talked about how much that, she loved her while trying not to cry. Her daughter was telling her how afraid she was of going away. I saw all of this as if I were looking down through the ceiling. Little by little, my mother's friend became slow in her responses and stopped moving completely. Her mother bent forward crying and holding her hand. and her father said nothing but looked incredibly pained and haunted. I woke up after dreaming that and sat confused in bed. Minutes later, my sister just comes into my room. They're telling me the parents of my mother's friend called saying she had passed away. Since I was a child, I've always had many intense and vivid dreams of very different things. And I can recall anything and recognize I'm inside one. And I gotta say, some things seem inarguable to me. Very short story of my own. The guy talking. Me. Everybody always says these stories about, having a dream before somebody passes away, and I gotta say, I tend to straddle the line between real and not real, sort of forcibly so. But about 2 years ago now, I woke up at who knows what hour, and I dreamt of a teacher of mine, a very important one, that passed on something that I hold very dear to me. And it was strange, because I haven't been back in that side of the world even for 5 years at this point, or 6 years, I don't even know. I did see him and his 14 cats maybe a week before I had left. And I hadn't really thought of it, hadn't been practicing what he taught me either. But I woke up in the middle of the night and I was sitting up in his porch, and he lived the second story up, little apartment. Surrounded by cats and their smells, by the way. But I found it odd that I was thinking about him and practicing again. I guess it was somewhere between 2 and 3, and anyway, I wake up and I'm sweating, and I'm holding my chest, actually. And I can't go back to sleep, and I stay awake till the sun comes up. And his wife, who I didn't take very kindly to be honest, she didn't seem to appreciate him at all. Maybe there's something I don't know, but whatever, I didn't appreciate it. But I do appreciate that she messaged me and said that he had passed away, and I didn't even know he was sick. I mean, he had his problems, but I didn't know he was sick at all. And ever since then, I try to practice every day and keep what he taught me alive. So, point is, I believe very firmly that there's something to these dreams that a lot of people have. Yeah, I'm sure sometimes it's a coincidence, but not for me. I'll try to elaborate more on that on my channel. But I had to say it, because that stuff is real. Most of the time. Our Santo Niño. A santo, or a saint, is a religious statue in Catholic traditions of Spain and the former Spanish Empire. They're usually made of wood or sometimes ivory, maybe fitted with textile clothing. They depict the Virgin Mary, Jesus, saints, or angels. A santero, a female santera, is a craftsperson who makes the image. Some santos, which have gained greater public devotion among the faithful, have also merited papal approval through canonical coronations. Santos remains a living tradition of religious iconography and folk art in Mexico, the Philippines, Puerto Rico, and some other Caribbean islands, South and Central America, and the southwestern United States, especially New Mexico. First of all, this is our Santo. Others might be offended reading this since, as stated above, Santos are considered as religious statues, which are very common where I'm from, the Philippines. So I'm not sharing this to ruin their image nor something like that. I just wanted to share my experience, so bear with me, guys. This happened 5 years ago. It was year 2020, and I think we can all agree that it was the most craziest year that we all have ever had. I agree. Still stuck there. It was January, I think, since it was before the lockdown due to COVID, and I was living in our grandmother's house with my sister during that time. I think I was 17. It's common in the Philippines to sleep in the living room. You can sleep on the couch or just put a folding bed to sleep on. My sister was sleeping just above my head on a couch while I owned all the space on the folding bed. We refused to share the bed together because we were teenagers. It's always been like that since we lived with our grandparents. So my sister was on the couch above my head, and there were also couches on my right and left side. I was always in the middle of them, on the folding bed. Just below my feet, or in front of us, there was the TV. And on the left corner of the room, there was a 6-foot-tall bamboo shelf divided into 6 layers where we put the Bibles, rosaries, and other religious stuff. And on top of that, it was our very own Santo Niño. Figure of a child, 3 feet tall, pale and beautiful. Has a red cape with a white collar and was certainly very, very old. I think it was from my grandmother's mother, which they got a blessing when they built their new home. My grandmother's estimate was around 1960 or 70. It was all good, and every night was the same until that night. One night I did the same routine as usual. I ate, I washed my body, cleaned the floor before putting in the folding bed, and lied down and rolled around while enjoying the remaining coldness of the bed. I watched TV until I felt drowsy. Eventually fell asleep. Thought it would be a peaceful night, but little did I know that it wouldn't be at all. In the middle of my sleep, I think it was 1 or 3 a.m. I woke up. Or should I say, something woke me up. I felt strange, like something was going on. So with my eyes closed, I tried to feel my surroundings. My body was very, very heavy. My mind was a mess. I tried moving, but I couldn't move my arms nor legs at all. And in the end, I opened my eyes and just stared at the ceiling very confused. Then all of a sudden, I got this weird feeling like it was warning me. And that feeling told me that I shouldn't be awake right now, or I shouldn't have woken up at all. Due to panic, I involuntarily looked around to see what to do. And there at the very corner of my eyes, with a little bit of light from the street lamp across the street, I saw something moving. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. But confusion turned to assurance. I was 100% sure that I was looking at a red cape that was swinging on the shelf. Within a few more seconds, just the time for my eyes to adjust to the darkness, my eyes rolled back after I clearly saw it. The Santo Niño was climbing down the shelf. The freaking child-sized figurine was climbing down the shelf like how a child climbs down the rope course in a playground. Everything around me stopped. I was too terrified to feel scared. All I could do was look at it until it reached the floor. It eventually reached the floor with its back on me, and the moment it took a step around, I heard this very painful, uncomfortable sound of a porcelain hitting the marble floor. It walked from the left corner of the room and was getting nearer to me, and each step it took, the sound got louder and more painful, like I got severe tinnitus. My fingers and toes were stretching whenever I heard it. My body was soaking wet because of the sweat. Until the sound became like the sound the protagonist used in a Quiet Place movie against the monsters, and it was very painful. The moment it arrived just beside my face, I was walking on the floor, not on the bed, by the way. I didn't even dare to look at it. With my eyes closed again, I just stayed still. It took another step, and the sound it caused shook my entire body. I was shivering and all my muscles just flexed so hard that in my back it arched up. It was like I was being possessed. No time to pray, no time to fight nor wonder. It was absolute chaos. And with another step it took, everything stopped. The last thing I remember was the sound of porcelain hitting the floor, getting farther and farther away before I passed out. Morning came. I found myself staring at Santo Niño, which was back on top of the shelf. I honestly felt nothing that morning. I wasn't scared nor anything like that. I just felt somehow empty that time. I even doubt it ever happened, but until now, I'm sure it wasn't even a dream. Usually, if anyone experiences it, they'll get trauma or something. But whenever I see different kinds of Santo Niño, or our very own Santo Niño, I feel empty, which makes me avoid them as much as I can. It's not normal at all. I refuse staring at them for too long, or else I'll hear that porcelain hitting the floor sound effect. After that night, I got so many questions like, why me? Where did it go after I passed out? Am I the only one who got to experience that in our family? How? What was it? I've even searched it up on the internet and Facebook. Many of my fellow Filipinos have had the same experience. There was this family that believed their Santo Niño runs around the house in the middle of the night. Another Santo Niño which plays with the babies whenever they get left unattended. Another Santo Niño which cries blood or tears, and many more. That's kind of scary. My opinion on the paranormal. I have encountered things that I can explain no other way. That being said, I don't really believe that all encounters are genuine, and I know that there are people out there who share or investigate purely to gain from people who believe or want to believe. Cheers. I believe that our plane of existence overlaps with the spiritual plane of existence. I think that certain places that have experienced high-level emotions or severe trauma have lines that are more blurred, allowing for more quote-unquote activity in those places. In that manner, I think that history influences activity. That being said, I don't know that history is a prerequisite for activity to occur, and believe that at different times, different spaces are weaker or stronger in connection. As to why some people have encounters and others don't, I believe that there's a spectrum of sight. This would explain why people who've had experiences don't always see or hear the same things. A personal example I have of this happened last year. While at my in-laws' house, I witnessed the apparition of a man, approximately 6 foot in height and dressed in an all-white suit. It has the inches sign, but we're going to go with 6 foot. The apparition strode slowly across the deck before vanishing. Told my mother-in-law about the ghost and that I believed her house to be haunted. She responded by telling me that she knew it was, and told me about having seen an apparition of a man standing in her yard who also vanished. The man she saw also was wearing a suit, but it manifested to her as grays and blacks. I believe that we likely saw the same entity. We just sit on different parts of the spectrum, I guess. This also explains to me why some people see orbs while others see full images. Or personages. Why don't I recognize that word? Personages. Glowing child. Okay, so when I was a kid, I had a really, really big imagination. I had always nightmares and dreams every night. I could always remember them all because of my imagination. When I was 9 or 11, I lived in this tiny town, my childhood home. My house had an abandoned old house close to it. It was really, really big, like an old mansion. It used to be a meeting house. It had dances, church, and it was built in 1921. I was so scared of it as a child, I always had to walk past it when I walked to school and home. And this is not my only time I experienced scary things in this house. One night I was walking home. It was already getting pretty dark and it was quiet. I was walking past the house and I stopped because I thought I saw something. I saw a white, bright figure, like 5 or 8 years old in height and staring right at me behind a tree. It looked 100% real and I panicked and started walking faster. When I started to walk faster and got to another tree, the figure ran behind the tree. I was close too and stared at me. Started running and didn't look back. The figure was really, really bright and looked so real, like it was really there. Like I said, it was a child's height, a little taller than me since I'm really short. The fact that this house was used as a church and had many children visiting it, maybe this was one of the children that visited it. No one knows. The house burned down in 2019. Ghost sitting on my front porch. Over a week ago, I was coming home late from a friend's house. I was fairly tired, but by the time I pulled onto the road to my house, I got close to my house, my attention was fixed in the front of my house. I have a small front porch with a light that turns on at 7 o'clock automatically. There's a small table I decorate up for the holidays, and a small plastic chair in the corner. And as I'm pulling up to the house, it looked like a man was sitting in that chair. I was around 35 yards away from the house at this point. What I could make out was a thin man with pale hair sitting down. He was facing the road. At first, I thought it was my dad. That's because he has dementia, and it can be difficult to get to the porch safely in some areas due to the soft dirt. But as I got closer, it looked like the man was younger and had darker hair. I was already trying to figure out what I was really going to do about some stranger on my front porch. But as I turned my vehicle into my drive, the car lights washed over the porch, and suddenly, the chair was empty. The only thing I could think to do was sit there for a moment to try to understand what had happened. Part of me wanted to believe pareidolia and exhaustion had to create what I saw. So I was shaky as I gathered my stuff up and ran inside, effectively smacking my foot against a wooden post that kind of makes up my front porch cover and possibly breaking my toe, but that's another story. It's either broken or it ain't. And I was telling myself my brain made it up. But the next day, I was telling my mother what had happened. I live on my parents' property, so my mother can see my porch easily. She admitted that she had seen shadowy figures standing on my porch, and had thought a man was sitting on my porch a few weeks before. Not only that, but she'd heard a man's voice at my door one evening when I was out. And I'm single, so she thought maybe it was one of my brothers or guy friends. She said no one was there, and she heard him talking when she had barely taken a few steps inside my house. I don't know what to make of any of that, but last night I saw the man again. I'd moved the chair to the corner, still thinking I'd seen things, and my mind was on spring rolls and some TV when I got home late night from work. So when I pulled up to my driveway and I saw the man sitting there, I made sure to turn my lights off before pulling in. And this time I know I saw him. Thin man, thin face, grayish-brown hair, and wearing a burgundy shirt. He was sitting there again, staring at the road. Sat in my car staring at him for almost a minute and then turned my lights on. And like before, he disappeared. But this time I could see him disappear. There was nothing behind him that could have caused pareidolia because my house has off-white paneling. So now I have no choice but to believe my mother's encounters. Already know my house is haunted, but I've never seen a male spirit before now. Makes me a little uneasy. prankster ghost. I have two spirits that are haunting my house. One of them is a woman whom I've seen from time to time. I've even heard. The other is a male spirit that is rarely around, but that I have heard maybe 9 or 10 times over the 5-year period that I've lived in this house. The female spirit definitely is cognizant. That's because she's somewhat interacted with me. And this is actually my favorite story to share about her. I don't really have a name for her, so I tend to call her Lady. Classy. A few years ago, I'm just shutting the house down and turning the lights off. Locked the front door, turned off the last lamp in the living room, and then I heard a clatter behind me. The remote, which usually sits on the end table by the couch, was on the floor some feet away. My thought was, I must have left it in the couch arm and it fell off. I picked it up, put it back in place, and ventured to the kitchen. I had barely gone around the corner into the kitchen when again I hear that same noise of plastic hitting the wood floor. Just a glance back into the kitchen, and this time the remote's on the floor behind the couch, which has its way back to the hallway that leads to said kitchen and bedrooms. I know that it isn't possible, but I pick it up and set it back on the table. I say good night to the lady and comment, "If you want to watch TV, I'll be glad to turn it on, just give me a sign." Nothing happens for a minute or so. I just wait, so I head back to the kitchen. Finish what I'm doing, and when I come out, there's a remote sitting on the step between the kitchen and the living room. The TV went on, and I headed to bed, thinking that maybe that would be the end of it. Nope. Got into the very dark hallway that leads to my bedroom when there's that clatter again. Lady had placed the remote in the opening of the hallway and had turned the TV off. Took that as a sign to go to bed and give Lady her privacy. She's done other similar things around the house, but never to this extent. Still makes me chuckle to think about, though. Shadow Man in Iceland. I've always been into paranormal stuff. I saw my friend posted his encounter that happened in my house, so I've decided to tell you guys my story. It was 2014 when I first moved into that old house in Selfoss, Iceland. My family and I had mixed feelings about it right from the start, but we brushed it off as just our imaginations. I guess it was easy to ignore that eerie sense of being watched, considering we had all felt it in every house we'd lived in. But this one, it felt different. There's something more to it, something we couldn't explain. I've always been sensitive to these kinds of things, even as a kid, and I remember when I was 4 years old crying to my mom about an ugly man I'd see at night. That face has always been stuck in my mind. A shadowy figure that haunted my dreams and never left me alone. As I grew older, I began to see him more and more. By the time we moved into this new house, I could feel him again, watching from the shadows. I was used to it by then, but the house itself seemed to have its own presence too. It wasn't just me who noticed it. It was the little things, the sounds of footsteps upstairs when we were all downstairs. My mom and my siblings would look at each other knowing full well no one else was up there. The first time going into the attic and having a strong feeling like being watched, a cross with Jesus hanging over the window and a creepy mask just laying there. But the most unsettling thing happened one morning when a family friend stayed over. She was in the living room and she was just waking up. She heard somebody run down the stairs. Confused, she asked my brother if it was me. But I told her I'd already left for school. I hadn't been home yet. The kids' toys suddenly turning on and playing their music. We have videos of it. The voice of an old woman would whisper sometimes and just say hello, or if we were staying up late, she told us to go to sleep. And we all knew that she had passed away here. There was even talk of someone else, though I never really figured out who. Had an old alarm clock, one that would ring so loudly it would wake the whole house. One morning as it went off, I woke up, but I couldn't move. And there, in the corner of my room, stood the same shadowy silhouette of a man, just like the one I'd seen as a child. I froze in terror. I couldn't move, and I get like it was getting closer, but before I could even react, my brother opened the door, drawn in by the sound of my alarm. And just like that, the figure vanished. Strange occurrences kept happening. One night I was in the living room preparing to eat dinner in front of the TV. Turned off the lights, TV on, and as soon as I pulled the table closer, the lights flickered on. TV turned off. Happened again and again, and each time more unnerving than the last. I'd turn the TV back on, turn the lights off, but as soon as I'd move the table, it would reverse. And this happened 4 times before I screamed, "Leave me alone!" That's when I heard it, a loud bang, so creepy that it scared me. Ran to check it out, and the bathroom door had a massive crack running down it. It didn't stop there. In my room, the weird things continued. My bedroom door would creak open by itself, or I'd hear strange scratching or knocking sounds on my walls. Strange thing was, every time I knocked back, all I'd hear a knock in return. It was like something was trying to communicate with me. And then there were the marks and scratches on my skin, bruises under my ribs, and once even a broken toe. I knew it wasn't the old lady. She was too gentle, and I always got this protective feeling from her. But the shadow man, the one who had been following me since I was a child, he was getting stronger and more violent. Even started to affect my dog, too. He would bark uncontrollably at the corners of the house and growling at thin air. When I tried to investigate, he would jump in front of me, blocking my way, as though trying to protect me. He would nudge me back into the room, warning me to stay inside, away from whatever was lurking out there. One day we visited a medium. She immediately focused on me with one look, and she said there was a shadow man, a dark entity that had been following me all my life. He was trying to get me, but I couldn't let him. He was strong. I don't know what's happening, but each day feels weirder than the last. I've tried to ignore it, but it doesn't stop. But it feels like the shadow man is always just a step behind me, waiting for me. I always get a weird feeling when talking about him. I feel like my chest is getting heavier. I don't know what to think anymore. I'm just hoping that somebody might have some answers, or at least a way to make it stop before it gets worse. Sorry this was so long. I hope some of you have any answers as to what this could be that's been following me. Well, and my mom and even my grandpa. The night I saw the gargoyle. When I was around 19 years old, there was one occasion when I went up to the rooftop of my house around 8 p.m. to fix an issue with the pump device that supplied water to the storage tank. As I reached the roof and leaned forward, I looked up, and just a few steps away from me, there was a creature with its back turned toward me. Based on other stories I read and heard, I could compare it to something people call a gargoyle, or maybe the Mothman. I saw how the full moonlight reflected off its head, which seemed to have a texture like black leather. I could make out pointy ears and a pair of protrusions that I assumed were wings. Everything happened so fast. From the moment I climbed onto the roof, looked up, and saw it, I immediately made a sound of confusion, which caused the thing to instantly turn around. The last thing I remember was a pair of yellow eyes and a sort of Batman-like effect as it raised its wings over my face. I'm certain I experienced a time lapse. That's because after feeling the flapping of wings over my face, I lost my balance, just falling backwards off the edge of the roof. But when I landed, it was like I had just dropped down hard onto my butt in a completely different position in the rooftop. I quickly looked around, but I couldn't see anything. I think it must have been the adrenaline, because I got off the roof almost in one jump, using the edge for support, and just ran into the house, feeling extremely disoriented and confused. I even started doubting whether I'd really seen anything at all. that whole night. Couldn't sleep, just thinking that maybe I had seen something and that I could come back and visit my house. When I told my mom, all I got were skeptical expressions. Only told one of my friends and haven't shared the story with anyone else since. Greetings from Mexico. And good evening from me. Or good afternoon or good morning. And good night. See ya. Sweet dreams.